Hello and welcome back. In today's video, I want to talk about chart selection and specifically how chart selections change over time. What triggered me to do this video was this blog on Datawrapper.de, and if you're not familiar with this tool, it's a pretty cool tool that allows you to load data and then create really stunning visualizations. And I think companies like New York Times and others use them quite a bit. So what they've done in this blog, they analyzed the chart selection usage from 2013, I assume this is where the tool started, to 2020. And what I found particularly interesting is the change in usage for bar and column charts. So early on in 2013, something around 27% of all visuals were bar charts. And if you add up all these different types of column charts, they add up to almost 35%. So between column charts and bar charts, something like 60% of all of the charts that users were using on their reports and dashboards were bar and column charts. What was the other 40%, you ask? Well, it was the line chart, which was 24%, tables, and pie charts. So literally 60% of all of the charts were bar and column charts. Now, if you take a look at the selection for 2020, first thing you will see that obviously the usage of column and bar charts has shrunk significantly, but we also see a lot more different colors. And if you drill into those, you will see that they've added a bunch of different variations. And my guess is that some of the usage change is driven by simply the evolution of the product. Now, let's talk about the pie charts a little bit. If there is one controversial topic that every thought leader in the visualization space has tackled, that would be the pie charts. I don't know how many articles I've read about not using pie charts. People who thought lead the visualization space hate pie charts. However, I do use pie charts every now and then. And actually, I think for certain scenarios, in a scenario where I expect a certain distribution of data, pie charts work very well because it helps me find anomalies in distribution very easy. And that is what makes pie charts very valuable to me. There are a lot of users who love pie charts. They specifically ask pie charts. They cannot live without pie charts. And who am I to argue with them? If you want a pie charts, here you go. I'll slap one right in for you. Now, the distribution of line and area charts for this tool, for Datawrapper, has not changed. It was 24% of all charts in 2013 and pretty much stayed at the same level in 2020 at 23%. Now, I don't think it's possible to go away from line area charts at all. I think when it comes to showing dynamics and data over time, nothing beats the line chart. I'm a big fan. What I found really interesting and kind of contradictory to how I'm using charts lately is the dynamics with tables and with choropleth symbol maps. Now, in Power BI world, we don't use the term choropleth, so let's take a look at what that is. So apparently all choropleth is just a variation of a map that allows you to color different things in different colors. So according to Datawrapper, we see that the usage of choropleths went from 4% in 2014 to 18% in 2020. Now we see that the usage was 0 in 2013. My guess is it's not because users hated maps. Most likely the tool simply didn't have them in 2013. So let's talk about tables. I was shocked to see that in 2013, only 4% of visuals were tables. And now that usage has grown to 17%. I would say in a business scenario, which I have to think that Datawrapper is not as often used for business scenario presentation as tools like Tableau and Power BI. So that probably explains why tables were not as popular in 2013. But in my experience, users love tables. I've come to BI world from Excel. I guess a lot of you guys did as well. And we simply love rows and columns, and so do our users. So one way or another, most of my reports, somewhere there will be a table that will show you the details that's very difficult to show with any other charts. I do use tables a little bit more now than I used to. And that is not because somehow I started to believe in tables more. The reason I use tables more now is because of all of the formatting options that have been added. So because there's so many other ways in a table to highlight and help the user find anomalies and help us guide user to find where the issues are, tables in Power BI have changed quite a bit from just being a way to show details of a particular fact into insight generator type of a visual. Now let's talk about maps. This is one chart type that I'm becoming less and less of a fan of. It's interesting that with some user groups, they have to have a map. And I remember several years ago, literally, that was one of the reasons why people would choose Tableau over Power BI or other tools. They just loved how the map worked in some of the tools, and no other chart types were important at all. So some users just love maps, and that, in their opinion, is the most important visualizations on your report. For me, I tend to use maps less and less. I find that they occupy too much room on a page. If you look at the insight to real estate ratio that maps provide, in instances where it makes sense, I obviously use them. But if there is another chart I could use instead of the map, I am very likely to switch the map for that chart. Now, this tool doesn't look like it has custom visuals. In Power BI we do. We have now hundreds of them. And I'm curious about your opinion. Leave in the comments if you are using custom visuals. I have to admit that I use custom visuals less and less these days. And the reasons I do not use custom visuals as much is A, sometimes they're a little bit too confusing for the end user. B, sometimes they require extra fee, and that just makes it's not necessarily the amount of money that they require to pay for the license. It's just dealing with procurement cycle with different customers. It just becomes a major pain in the neck. And C, I don't know if these visuals are going to be available a year from now, what the maintenance cycle will be, what features are going to be available. So I just never feel comfortable that 6-12 months from the day I release my report, the visual will look the same. It will no longer be free, and all of those issues. So quite frankly, I just choose to use Microsoft Power BI built-in visuals as much as I can, and very rarely do I veer off into the custom visual category. And the last topic on this chart that I thought was interesting is the arrow, dot, range, and scattered plots. So I think that the fact that only 4% of charts are scatter plots are indications of the following. And that is true for you too. If you are not using scatter plots in your reports, there is probably 2 reasons why that happens. Reason number 1, your reports or dashboards are very simple and they're not tackling any complicated kind of issues where you have to compare 3 variables on the same chart. Reason number 2, if you're not using scatter plots in your reports, you're probably a pretty junior report creator. Typically, as you get better with the tool, as you get better with creating measures, and as your audience becomes more comfortable using Power BI and tools like in business intelligence to understand what's going on, you will see more and more scatter plots used for storytelling in your reports. To summarize, I hope you found this distribution of chart usage interesting, and most importantly, I'd like to challenge you to use more scatter plots in your designs, because I think as you get better at Power BI, as you get better with your measures, you can really find some interesting insight by using scatter plots. If you would like me to do a video with a bunch of different examples and really drill into why scatterplot is an awesome type of a chart, leave the comment below and I'll be happy to do a follow-up in the future. I will leave the link to the Datawrapper article that I use in this video in the description of this video. Thank you for stopping by, and I look forward to see you come back very soon.